Okay, this is the CWHS Spring Geometry Final Review. The exams start here soon. So, number one, we are going to write the trigonometric ratio for tangent as a fraction, as a decimal rounded to the nearest hundredth. So if we go back, this is trigonometry. We had what was SOHCAHTOA. And that stood for the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So those are our trig functions. We learned SOHCAHTOA to help us remember them. And it says I want the tangent. So that means I want the opposite over the adjacent side. And that's tangent of y. So y is my theta. I'm going to label that theta. And from theta, I label my other sides. So opposite of theta, that is the opposite side. Next to theta, that is the adjacent side. And since these are all right triangles, this is my hypotenuse. It's always across from my right angle here. That's my hypotenuse. Now, since I need opposite over adjacent, that means that is going to be 12 over 9. So if I look, I really only have one option that's 12 over 9, and that's going to be A. You want me to double check on my calculator here. I can type in 12 over 9, and you can see it is 1.33 as a decimal. Since we're dealing with trig, I need to make sure I am in degree mode. We have now learned about radians, but these are all in degrees. So I want to make sure my calculator is in degree mode, and I clicked mode, arrowed down to radian, arrowed over to degree, and hit enter. Okay, so now I know my calculator is in degree mode for further problems. Okay, number 2, find the value of x. Express your answer in simplest radical form. Okay, well, I know I have a right triangle here, so that means I could use Pythagorean Theorem, and that's going to be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's see, I've got 4 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. That equals c squared. 16 plus 64 is 80. That equals c squared. And then I need to take the square root of both sides. And I don't see square root of 80 there, so that means they are simplifying it. I simplify by the latter method. So I'm going to take 80, and I'm going to start dividing by my smallest prime number, 2. So I'm going to divide by 2, and I get 40. I can divide by 2 again, and I get 20. And I'm going to keep dividing by 2 until I can't divide by 2 anymore. I can divide by 2 again, and I get 10. I can divide by 2 and I get 5. Well, now I can't divide by 2 anymore, so I go to my next prime number, 3. 3 doesn't go into 5, so I move on to the next one, 5, and 5 goes into 5 one time. When I get down to 1, I know I'm done, and these are all my factors of 80. So I have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. A square root is to the half power, so that means I circle any pairs that I have. That indicates a full power, and that gets to come out of the radical. Unfortunately, 5 doesn't have a partner. So 2 gets to come out as a whole power, another 2 gets to come out as a whole power, and 5 stays under the radical because it's still a half power. And then I multiply these back together. So 2 times 2 is 4, and I get 4 square root of 5. That would be answer choice C. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and move it up. Okay, number 3 says tell which of the following triangle dimensions could not be one of those of a right triangle. Well, I want to point out our Pythagorean triples. Those are helpful in these situations. We had several sets of numbers that were triples. We had our 3, 4, 5. We had 5, 12, 13. We have 6, 8, 10, which is really a 3, 4, 5 times 2, but it's used very often. 24, 25, and 8, 15, 17. Okay, so those were the triples that we learned earlier in the year. And those are that consistently show back up. Like in point A, that's a triple. That is a 3, a 4, and a 5 times 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 5 is 45. So that's not our choice because that is a triangle. It's a right triangle. Okay, B. Nope, that's a triple too. That's our 5, 12, 13 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 12 is 72. 6 times 13 is 78. That's a right triangle. Answer choice C. Nope, it's a triple. We went back to 3, 4, 5 times 8. So 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 5 is 40. That is a right triangle. Okay, well, we've already eliminated 3 out of the 4 answer choices, so it has to be D. And we can verify it because we would perform Pythagorean theorem. Is 5 squared plus 12 squared equal to 15 squared? Because if it's a right triangle, it's equal. So that would give me 25 plus 144. Is that equal to 225? And we get 169 is equal to 225. No, that does not work. That is not a right triangle. So D is verified not to be our right triangle. Okay, coming down here to number 4, it says find GH. So we're going back to our trig. So we're going to need that SOHCAHTOA again. SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA. And I want to find GH, so this is the area I'm trying to find. That's my hypotenuse, so I do need that side labeled. Here's theta. I don't have anything over here, so I'm not going to use it. But I do have 19.8, and that's my adjacent side. Okay, so now that I've labeled 2 of my sides, adjacent and hypotenuse, I need to decide which trig function to use, the sine, the cosine, or the tangent. And that's going to be determined by the sides I have labeled. I have adjacent and hypotenuse. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and I don't have the opposite side, so I can't use that one. Cosine has adjacent and hypotenuse, so I could use that one. Tangent has it opposite and adjacent, but I don't have the opposite side. So looks like I need to use a cosine. So cosine of 35 degrees equals the adjacent side, 19.8, over x, the line side I'm trying to find. Okay, now if I cross multiply and divide, what we noticed when the variable was in the denominator is that these two just switched places. So when I cross multiply and divide, x moves over to the left, 19.8 stays the same, and cosine 35 moves down. Now I'm ready to input it into my calculator. It's a good thing we already made sure it was in degree mode, because now I'm going to type in 19.8 divided by the cosine of 35. And I'm going to hit enter, and I get 24.17. So x equals 24.17, and that looks like it's going to be A. Okay, I'm going to pause the video to move it on up. Number 5, Jesse's building a ramp for loading motorcycles on a trailer. The trailer is 4.7 feet off the ground. To avoid making it too difficult to push the motorcycle up the ramp, Juanito decides to make the angle between the ramp and the ground 25 degrees. To the nearest hundredth of a foot, find the length of the ramp. Find the length of the ramp side AC. Okay, so it says find AC, so that's the side length we're going to find. Here is our theta, because they said it's making a 25-degree angle with the ground. That makes 4.7 my opposite side, and that makes x my adjacent side. So based on SOHCAHTOA, since it's off of the other screen, opposite and adjacent. So I'm going to look at my sides and see which one uses opposite and adjacent, and that's going to be the tangent function. So I'm going to set up tangent of 25 degrees equals opposite 4.7 over adjacent x. And just like the problem before, since x is in the bottom, I'm going to switch places. That's what happens when I cross multiply and divide. And I get x equals 4.7 over tangent of 25. I don't know why that kind of looked like a 7. 4.7, and I'm going to go over to my calculator, and we're going to type that in. 4.7 divided by tangent of 25, and I get 10.08. 10.08. That's going to be D. Okay, an eagle 208 feet in the air spots its prey on the ground. The angle of depression is 35 degrees. That means it's looking down. And that also causes an alternate interior angle, so that makes this 35 our theta. What's the horizontal distance? They've labeled that x between the eagle and our prey. So since 35 is my theta, 208 is opposite, making x the adjacent side. Opposite and adjacent, again, that means I'm going to be using my tangent function. So I'm going to have tangent of 35 degrees equals 208 feet over x. And just like the problems before with my x in the bottom, they're going to switch. So x is going to be 208 divided by the tangent of 35. And going back to my calculator, 208 divided by tangent of 35 gives me 297.1, and I can see x equals 297.1, and that's going to be answer choice C. And this is going to end the first video.